in 20 minutes. Okay, so, great, everybody was still relaxed and sort of just kind of hanging out, talking. And then we were still working in front of the mirror, me and my brother. Then next thing you know, 10 minutes passed. The security guard walked back in and said, Michael's arriving in 10 minutes. So, okay, everybody didn't really think too much of it, because mind you, we'd already been there for a couple weeks. And then next thing you know, the security guard comes back in, time has already passed, and then he said that Michael was gonna arrive at 5. It's like a countdown. So, okay, so everybody was still kind of relaxed and all, and then next thing you know, I'm like looking in the mirror, going over steps and all that stuff, and next thing you know, I kind of like glance around, and I see somebody in the corner with a fedora and a black blazer, some black slacks, and he has penny loafers, and I can see the white socks. But it was like in a distance, right? So I wasn't thinking too much of it, and I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, is that what I think it is? And then, next thing you know, we didn't get warned, by the way. Remember, the security guard kept on coming back in and out, was saying, you know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So we didn't get warned that he was actually gonna walk in. He just appeared like it was magic, like out of thin air. So, and then when everybody finally realized that was Michael standing, watching everybody ran to the mirror and started fixing their clothes, fixing their fedoras, starting to work on the number and all that. And then next thing you know, we started doing the number, everybody started messing up in front of him. That was my recollection of first meeting Michael.
And it was so surreal too, because the choreographers, Lavelle Smith and Travis Caine were telling us, you gotta make sure you're on your P's and Q's when he's in the room, because he will stop, turn around, and look at you. And lo and behold, as we start doing the number, in the midst of it, when he's singing out, like full out, he's dancing full out, when he stops, you can feel it in your bones. He literally stops in the middle of the song, turns around, and looks at everybody, like this, keeping time. He's like, you know, biting his lip, and we're all like, oh my God. And then he spins, turns around, and gets back right into the number. That, I tell you, was one of the things that Tony and I used to talk about so much, because it wasn't like he stopped and then, you know, stop the music. He literally had the music keep playing. We were performing. You had to make sure that you kept performing. And with that being said, is that he just went right back into the song, dance, step, everything. And like he was on stage. It was surreal. It was like some superpower.
And just note that they said this was 1995, and Tones told you they were 15 and 17, so you figure out their ages today.
Hey, really fast. Whenever we tell the story, Karen, the majority of people we tell the story to were just born. I'm like, wait, what? What you mean he was just born in 93, 94? It's crazy.
All right, so here's our next question for you guys. So think back. What was, for each of you, the hardest choreography for you to learn?
Man, must be a two-tier question.
I'll tell you right now, right away, yes, most definitely. For me, was like, I think the first thing for me was probably Dangerous.
No, same.
Yeah,
because I think that was like a perfect. This is what I call this routine, because obviously it's one of the first ones that I learned being in Michael Jackson's camp. But also it was a perfect blend of technicality, street, and precision. And also a groove and soul too as well, because there was a lot of moves in that routine that I felt connected with, because a lot of it was majority of the time coming from the street side of things. But also the technical side, because you had to know how to work on your toes, right? And also be ambidextrous you had to be even on both sides. Because, you know, most dancers, I don't know if you guys know this, right? Most dancers, they favor their strongest side. You don't really notice because you're not looking at that particular thing, but with this particular routine, I would say this is where the technical side came in. And we were not trained at all. We didn't take ballet, we didn't take jazz classes or anything like that. We're straight raw from the streets. So that's how we learned, from just watching. But this was the first time ever that we had to go through a process of understanding how to work my left side. if that makes any sense, right? So for everybody that understands rhythm, you got to be strong on both sides. That, to me, that what makes a perfect dancer.
Can I add something to that? What Tone just said was crazy was that when we started learning the routine, everything was going to the left. Michael was he's right-handed, right? But for some reason, his left side is really strong when it comes to the dancing. I don't know if you guys really pay attention to it over the years, watching videos. You know that famous thing he does when he taps his heel, well, that's left, right? A lot of people, when they see it, they do it on the right, because that's a lot of people's safe side. But everything is on the left with Michael. So learning that routine, just to add on to what Tone was saying, it was really difficult because we had to be able to dance towards the left, dance on the left side, and be ambidextrous.
Hey, here's kind of a fun question. Did Michael Jackson ever play a practical joke on you, or did you ever help him play a practical joke on anybody else? We all know that Michael liked to joke.
Well, yeah, Michael liked to joke a lot. I know one thing, there was a lot of water guns around. We used to get
like to spray people with water.
Yeah, water guns. Obviously, he loved his disguises, so sometimes he'll come on set. We wouldn't even recognize him, and I'm like, wait, oh my God, I just hugged Michael Jackson. And it was someone else.
I would say, I mean, he did pick on one particular individual, which was his musical director. For some reason, he really loved to play jokes on this guy. His name was Brad Buxton. He was the MD for the History Tour. And I recall, during sound checks, we would tech Billie Jean. It was the classic intro where he walks out with a suitcase. And a lot of the Foley sounds of him walking, as you know, that is triggered by a keyboard, which Brad Buxton was in charge of. And always during tech, he will always walk out, and he will always walk out normal, and then stop. And then he would do this.
And if Brad
And then man, I'm telling you, we would look at Brad, and everybody from the band, the guitarist, all the other keyboardists, the backup singers would be cracking up because literally Michael would just be standing there smiling, looking at Brad. Look down at the ground. He would just lift his leg. And then you hear 2 steps, and he would be like, Brad, you're not looking at me. What's wrong, Brad? Did you get some sleep? So that was a real fond moment.
And every day, so Brad would show up, but as far as getting some sleep, Brad would show up looking like he just woke up out the bed straight to rehearsal. Hey, Brad, if you're watching this, I love you, brother. Sorry, man, but it's the truth.
Fun, very Michael. Speaking of the History Tour, here's a question. Do either of you have a favorite song that you enjoyed performing on the History Tour?
Man, it was, I think it's still my favorite song to this day, because whenever we did that number, it was nothing but freedom. It felt like, you knew Michael Jackson for so many years, and that number was One B Start song. As you know, true fans in here, whenever you see him perform that number on Bad, Dangerous History, you see like this grit come, this umph, this sort of visceral, very graphic Michael Jackson, right? The attitude comes in there, every move is sharp. It's like it's something about that song, man. And there was something Tony and I used to always say to each other when we were on tour with Michael Jackson. Is like, we went going from country to country and seeing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people come. And sometimes we would just perform in an open field because there were so many people. Like stadiums couldn't hold the fans, right? And it was an epiphany to a degree for Tone and I, because it felt like, Michael was this true person that brought the world together. So it was like, every time before the show, Tone and I would be, juicing each other up, like, all right, man, let's go save this project, save the world. It's time to go save the world. So whatever, and then we get in our pods and we'll pop up on stage, and whenever we get to that number, want to be starting something. Man, let me tell you, man, there was a chemistry on stage with him. The way he walked back and forth, the way he controlled the crowd with just his song and dance, that right there was just my favorite. I think it was very surreal.
Superhero music.
What about you, Tom?
I think mine was School Criminal. Obviously, that's a lot of people would say that would be an easy one, right? But I think, from my point of view, it was my chance to always do the meme, which was one of the greatest moves of all time. I think, but also, to go beyond that, I think playing the character, dressing up in that pinstripe suit with the fedora, and just playing a character throughout from beginning to end in that number. I think that was one of my memorable, most favorite numbers to ever do.
Most definitely.
Okay, so here's one for you. Is there a favorite memory that either of you have of Michael that you want to share with everybody? I know it's hard. I know we all like to keep our memories of Michael like close to our hearts, but is there one that maybe you'd be willing to share today?
There's a lot of memories that I think Tone and I personally hold for ourselves that we don't like to share with people. But there's one in particular that made me cry on stage, sitting back watching him. And it was in Milan, Italy. We did this show when Heal the World came up. As you all know, Michael went to every country, spent time at orphanages, hospitals, and all that, with a lot of kids that either were devastated by disease, war, so on and so forth. And like he was his angel, right? And this show in Milan, there was this kid that was dying of AIDS in Milan, and I don't know. I guess his one wish was, to come to a Michael Jackson show and watch Michael perform. Well, he was on the side of the stage in his wheelchair, and you looked at him, you could tell he was happy, but he was so frail. He was didn't have a lot of energy. And man, when Heal the World came on, let me tell you something. I crack up every time I think about it sometimes. But you know when you watch a soccer game in Europe and they have this chant, the whole crowd is chanting one thing. Well, that was going on because what Michael did was that he walked to the side of the stage, he picked the kid up out of his wheelchair, and he was walking around the stage, holding him, singing Heal the World. And I say that was one of the most powerful moments I seen of Michael Jackson, because he brought not only the city of Milan together, but he brought this energy of love towards this child that was, on his way of dying, right? He made that moment so special for him. And sit back, I just remember standing next to my brother, and we're just doing this to each other. Like, wow, like, look at this. Dude, we were young. Sometimes a lot of these types of moments go over our head, but that moment stuck with me. It made me look at him in a whole different way. I was like, this man was heaven sent, because he had this gift of music and dance. He brought everyone together for that moment, for that child. I think that's one of my favorite moments.
I gotta say that was probably one of my top. Number one, but I think my number two is more of the funnier human side of Michael. We were working on the short film with Chris Tucker. I remember You Rock My World with Marlon Brando as well. Actually, it was 2 moments within this, the process of shooting that short film. Number one, my brother and I and a couple of the dancers, I think it was like a break, we took a break or whatever from shooting. And we were outside and we were walking, I think we were on the way walking to the cafeteria. The next thing you know, there was this golf cart that was driving, and then I could hear the engine from the golf cart, but I didn't bother to turn around. But it was like driving, like it sounded like it was getting closer because we were walking. So we kept on walking, and next thing you know, I hear this beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, and I turn around, I'm looking real bad. And then the rest of the group turned around too. And it was Michael driving Marlon Brando in a golf cart. And then Michael was telling us with a big smile, could you move out the way? And literally, we moved out the way, he drove through, and then everybody, we just stopped and we just froze. We just looked at each other, it was like, did that just happen?
Marlon clearly liked living on the edge, letting Michael drive him in anything.
You know, Marlon Brando, that's like, he was a little heavy set, and Michael was, you know, a little skinnier, so it's like Lauren Hardy in a way.
It was the funniest, like, view and picture. I would never forget that moment. And you just look at Marlon Brando just hanging outside of a golf cart like this, like, he has like glasses on. You know, it was just funny. But I think the other moment was how he was the teacher side of Michael, right? He basically, like, we were setting up a scene, and literally he would go up to each individual and give them specific directions on how to act, how to move. Like, he took this one dancer, like, there's a shot where he wanted this one dancer to smoke a cigarette. And literally, he grabbed a cigarette. It wasn't lit. He grabbed the cigarette out of the guy's hand. He was like, this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want it to feel. So he was like leaning up against the wall, and he was like acting like he was taking a puff of the cigarette. He would like literally lean off the wall and just sort of like walk towards, you know, across the center, and then he would like, I want you to look back, I want you to look at the rest of the dancers, I want you to tip the ash, throw down the cigarette, and then do this. It's like, just the small little details, man. And I was like watching a master at work on set. And literally, you know, and the director was literally, basically he was doing the director's job. But the director was just like literally taking notes. I mean, you could tell he was just soaking everything up. But I was just looking at that whole situation, just stepping back and being like, you know what? This is exactly what I signed up for here, is to learn from people like this. So this is one of those things, one of those moments where, you know, you got to take full advantage of, you know, when you're in those moments, you know, learning from somebody like that. One of the greatest of all time, right? And you just got to sit back and just cherish those moments, man.
And this was funny about that too. So as Michael was doing that, the set, everything. Whenever Michael moves and talks, he stops time, okay? So as he's doing this, you just know everyone was like this. And then right when he turns around and gets someone's attention, you know, the director was like this too. Yes, Michael, what do you need?
Well, you forgot they were at work.
Exactly.
All right, so here's a question for both of you. Did either of you ever spend time at Neverland with Michael?
I did. It's very brief, but it was for the two fundraiser shows that he was doing in Germany and Korea. And he wanted to have a meeting at amongst the creative team. And yeah, took this, I remember this black van showing up at our, in front of my house, and we literally took this van. It was like probably like 3-4 hour drive up to Neverland, but we had the meeting, I remember, in the movie theater. And obviously we waited for about like an hour or two before he actually arrived, but typical, which is fine.
So he was on time.
Yeah. Yeah. So literally we drove about 3 to 4 hours out, and we waited about 2 hours for him to come. And the meeting lasted for about maybe like 20 minutes.
And then you spent 4 hours driving back.
So that was my experience going to
Okay.
Neverland.
No, that's cool. I think that I don't know how many people know the history that Rich and Tone have with Michael, and I know we've talked a little bit about some of the projects that you worked on. Obviously, the history tour, You Rock My World, the first thing in '95. But maybe you guys want to just share with everybody, just so they know, some of the other projects by name or something that you have the opportunity to work with Michael on.
Ghost?
Oh, man. Yes, so in chronological order, to a degree, Tony and I would go back and forth. '95 was the MTV VMA Awards, right? From there, that was the first sort of marketing promotion for the History album. From there, we did other shows. First time going to Germany, we did this big show called Wittendas, which was awesome. That was our first time ever outside of the country. Well, actually our second time. And so from there it led up to the short film Ghost, where Tony and I were co-choreographers under Lavelle Smith and Travis Caine, and Barry Lather came in and helped out.
And Michael Jackson.
And Michael Jackson, yes. Well, by the way, as y'all know, Michael Jackson created everything that we do, so that he does. But director, rest in peace, was Stan Winston, he was the genius behind Alien, Terminator. He was the guy that created all that makeup stuff. So from there, we then did.
I think that we worked on a couple shows with Dick Clark.
Yep.
We actually did the Soul Train Awards.
We did the Soul Train
Remember
Awards.
that?
Yes, we did.
It was at in Los Angeles.
It was awesome.
God, I forgot the name of the theater.
This was so cool about that too, Tony. I totally remember. We had our own day because we had to go to Germany. So Michael had his own day of doing his performance for Soul Train Awards. Whole audience came in just for that, and everybody was in there. Everybody and their mama was there. They wanted to see Michael Jackson, which was awesome.
And then we also did the Democratic Party. There was a Democratic convention. It was in Harlem.
Yeah, he did a special.
It was at
The Bill Clinton.
Yes.
He did a special private show for the Democratic National Party, right? Clinton was there and all that, and all the senators, all this, and it was at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. Tony and I, first time, I mean, we grew up watching late night, the Apollo show, but being there was surreal. Obviously, this is an institute. This is the mecca of like black performances and all that. So it was amazing being there with Michael Jackson and Art and the band and all of us dancers in a room full of performing for senators, which was so surreal to me. And Bill Clinton was there. I was like, wow, Mike. And you just, we had conversations with ourselves like, wow, Mike performs for delegates and diplomats and world leaders.
Let me just show you a quick little story about the Apollo Theater show, because this was very, very special and close to Michael, and I'll tell you why. We were doing the tech rehearsal, and all the dancers were on stage, and we were obviously warming up and going over staging and all that stuff before Michael arrived. So time went by, Michael arrived, right? So everybody, obviously, you already told, like my brother was telling, anytime he walks in the room, time stops, right? All the crew members sort of just stopped what they were doing and was just watching him walk onto stage. Obviously, all the dancers and myself and my brother was on there. And he walked on stage, and literally, everybody's eyes dropped to his shoes. It's a cool story. He walked in with these black, shiny, patent leather shoes. There weren't the classic MJ loafers, right? And then literally was gonna ask him, right? Michael, what's up with the shoes? Nice shoes you got on. Some really beautiful shoes. Obviously, they were gleaming in the light too as well, right? And then he literally just gave us a story. It was like, well, I wanted to wear these special shoes because this is the same stage when I was a kid. In that wing right there where I was standing, this is where I saw Jackie Wilson perform. That's right. And he had these same shoes on. And I just wanted to dedicate this rehearsal to the great Jackie Wilson. And I'm going to rehearse with these leather shoes. How amazing is that?
Very good. Sorry to cut everybody off, but unfortunately, we're nearing the end of our thing. This is normally the time at which we would invite the cast of Michael Jackson 1 to come out and do a performance for all of you that they specially create for the birthday every year. But unfortunately, this year that wasn't possible, actually for the same reason that we're actually doing this Q&A earlier than we normally do, as you know. And that is that the entire creative team, cast and crew, have been working on some enhancements to the show over an extended dark of a couple of weeks that just ended. And some of the changes you will actually see at the show tonight. But because of this, they didn't have time to also create a special performance for you today. We're excited for you to start to see some of these enhancements, as I said, tonight. I don't want to give too much away so that it'll all be a surprise, but I will say that one of the driving forces behind some of these things was the desire to keep Michael Jackson 1 at the forefront of technological advancements, since it's been, 11 years now since the show started, and we thought it was time to bring in some of the advancements that have happened. And again, the whole thing of keeping the show ahead of the curve is very much influenced by everything Michael did himself and wanting to stay ahead of the curve with everything he did. So that is why we have to turn the theater back over to them right now so that they can do some additional work in preparation for tonight's show. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming and sharing with us and celebrating Michael and on this special day. And the only other thing I want to make sure everybody is aware of is that today, on Michael's birthday, we thought was a good time to update the profile picture on all of his pages. So if you haven't already noticed, I think we have the image to show you that will now be his profile picture. So thanks everybody, and we look forward to seeing you tonight at the show, and have a great rest of the afternoon.
I just want to give it back up to y'all. Thank you so much for keeping his essence and his legacy alive. As you know how much he loved y'all, the fans. You are the reason why we are still here. You are the reason why he is still alive. Thank you so much. And keep doing it.
Give yourselves a big hand. Thank you.
I'll see y'all later.
Betsy want? She texted me, come to the lobby.
What did she say?
Betsy said, come to the lobby.
I don't know. Just now?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
We got blocked again. It's crazy. I got to log off and log on. Sorry, everybody.